Hi, hey everybody. It worked. We're on live. Hi Jill, welcome. Hey Nadia, hey Mirta, hi Bren, hi Marlena, hi Mela, hey Emery, hi Heather, hi Dinner Talks, awesome, hi Sylvia, hi Krista, hi Laura, hi Dilemmas of Emma. Hey, unconventional methods. Hi, Nadia. If people want to share where they're calling in from, hey, Imrohan from India. Hi, Elizabeth. Hi, Kate. So wonderful to see everybody. This is so great. Hey, Celeste from South Africa. And Lindsay. Hi, Kai. Hi, Natasha. Natasha, good to see you. Hi, Aditima from Switzerland. Jessica from London. Bravest Path is here. Hey, Laura from San Jose. And Whistler. Hey, everyone. So good to be with you all. This is so fun. I have to say, I have maybe been a little blocked. I have been a little blocked about the Instagram lives, I just feel like I came up in the blogging era and everything was so writing driven when I started sharing work online. And it's maybe taken me a little while to get on the bandwagon, but I'm so excited because even yesterday, just practicing, and I know many of you were on when I came on for like 10 minutes to practice, and I was like, oh, I'm never going to be able to go back to not doing this. It is so fun. Hi, Tara J. Frank. Yes, we're going to post the replay. Don't worry. She's saying, I have a call. Okay, we will. We're planning on it. Yay. So we are going to have questions and conversation today. This is a time to chat about whatever's coming up in your playing big. Playing big is always challenging, but now we have a whole new set of circumstances and routines and lifestyle and change and loss in our midst. And so we're going to talk about all of that today. And I'm going to be talking through some of the questions that some of you sent in by email or yesterday, but hopefully we'll have time for more questions too. So go ahead, if you already are coming with a question, start to think about what it is. I'm gonna begin with some of the ones that we got already. You guys are awesome. Like my team and I were reading these questions and we're like, these questions just make us feel like these are our people. Like we're all grappling with the same dilemmas, and you all articulated what you're struggling with so beautifully. So I'm excited to dive in. That's what today is all about. Okay, so here's our first question. This is from Decine. And Decine, if you're here today also, I know you were on our little practice yesterday. If you're here today, tell me in the chat so I know if you're actually able to hear this now or if you're going to be listening later. So here's what Decine says. I'm a teacher and a psychology postgrad. I keep dreaming of setting up a social enterprise to support women artisans in developing countries, to earn a living wage, and to fund girls' education. And I consistently talk myself out of it. Can anyone relate to consistently talking themselves out of the things they really want to do and would think would be incredible callings to follow, expressions of themselves? And here she says, the usual narrative is that I need to go back and get an MBA and a master's in international development. Because obviously, one relevant master's degree is not enough for us brilliant women. We like to have all the master's degrees that could be relevant before we go do the thing, right? Elizabeth saying, oh my gosh, me too. And how could I, and then the thoughts go, I could never sustain this financially, and I need a flexible but stable anchor job, and how to just take the first step from this place. Thank you for sharing your wonderful work. It's a real ray of light, hoping you and your loved ones are well. So, hi, Decine. So Decine is already onto herself here. You can hear in this question because she's starting to suspect, maybe the thing to do here is check this out with my playing big community and not just go plunk my signature down on that contract for the new grad school program. And so here's what I want to say about that. I believe, and some of you read about it in the Playing Big book, that one of our most core hiding strategies for a lot of us brilliant women is what I call seeking ever more education. And, we know that girls overall now perform better than boys in school. We get more years of schooling. Young women get more years of schooling than our male counterparts around the world. We are the main consumers of education. And in a way, that's good because it means we're approaching our responsibilities with a lot of thoughtfulness and experience and learning. But I think that we also can get in a kind of comfort zone with education where all of those good girl norms and all of the conditioning we get in a patriarchal society is well aligned with how school works, actually, because we get to be the student. We get to say somebody else has the answer, and I'm going to do all my good work and study up and absorb and then re-articulate their answers. And I can also convince myself that even if I'm feeling scared of going for my real dreams now, that if I just complete this next piece of education, I won't be scared on the other side. And so I want us to question that because I actually have never seen a woman say, I have self-doubt about this project, so I'm going to go get this education, and then on the other side come out of it and tell me, yeah, now I'm confident about going for it. It doesn't work that way because the inner critic is really about that feeling of lack of confidence about the playing bigger dream is really like, what if it doesn't work out how I want it to? What if I fail? What if people criticize my innovative idea? And all those things can still be true on the other side of education. Our educational experiences can often make us even less confident because that's where we learn, oh, somebody else is the expert, not me, or I didn't do so well in that class. So obviously I respect education. I got a couple, fancy degrees myself, but I think we need to know our why for education. And if we're going to enrich ourselves, if we're going because there's some kind of training that we absolutely know we need, like I want to perform surgery on people's brains, so I should get trained as a brain surgeon. Okay. But for many of us right now, the callings we feel, artistic callings, entrepreneurial callings, social mission-driven callings like discerns, we don't need the stamp of that degree and we don't need that highly specific training. So you want to check yourself if you've got that education-seeking hiding strategy going on. And then another question discern can ask, and we can all ask this when we're thinking, like really unsure, do I need that education? Ask yourself, do I have overwhelming evidence from the world that yes, I need that specific degree? Do I have overwhelming evidence from the world, my experience out there in the world trying to do this thing, that it is going to be impossible to do it without it? So that would mean discern would be starting to build her project and trying it, and she would just be hearing everywhere, like every single donor she tried to fundraise from would say, come back to me when you have the MBA. Right? Or maybe she starts working with partners to develop the enterprise and they say, you want to partner with us? I don't know. I didn't see an MBA on your profile. That's what I'm talking about. Like, discern, if you've heard that specific line 30 times, come back and we can talk again about whether you need that MBA. But of course, most of us just make up that as an assumption in our head that we need that degree. And then the question is, what's going to help us deal with the fear that's there if we're not turning to education to delay? And that's all the stuff that we always talk about, the fear tools and the inner critic tools, and that we'll talk about more today. Okay. Here's a question from Emma. Emma says, I've been laid off as a result of COVID. Do we have others on the call who have been laid off? I'm sure we do. And I'm going to use this chance to leap into my own business. I'm confident in my offer and my value. But how do I know when to start charging versus doing work for free to build my resume? I'm essentially doing the same thing as I did with my previous employer, but now I'm doing it as a contractor for other businesses. I've now got work that I offered to do pro bono, and my husband thinks I should be charging. I hope that makes sense. Excited for today. Okay, awesome, Emma. Thank you. I love this question. So this question is actually a lot like Discern's, even though it seems to be about a different subject, because my answer to you here would be the same, which is, what is your overwhelming evidence from the world that you have to start by offering your work pro bono? What is your overwhelming evidence from the world? In other words, have you tried maybe 20 to 30 times to charge for this work and found that people said, I don't know, you're just starting out as a contractor. I would really expect you to be offering this pro bono, right? I'm guessing you haven't. It sounds like this was kind of maybe a little bit of an inner critic or fear-driven thought that said, I'm just starting out. I'm nervous. I don't know if people are going to buy my work. This is scary to be in my own business, and I'm going to make this feel safer for myself by not even having the pricing or charging conversation. And hi, Emma, you're here. So you tell me if that resonates. And what were those first thoughts that led you to say, I think I'll just offer this for free? Especially here, Emma, you're saying I did this same work already on a paid basis when I was employed. So we know that you are already professionally doing this work and that others see value in it, right? That they paid. And Emma's saying, okay, you're so right. Yes. And I'm with you, Emma. I've done the same thing. I probably did something similar last week. So then the question that's really interesting here, and this is for everyone, when we've made a narrative up about what you need to do, whether it's I need to, get the PhD before I can even start doing that. I need to take that writing course before I can contact publishers. I need to go pro bono before I can charge. What we want to do is now imagine, what was the fear underneath? What was scary there? And that might be different, a little bit different for each of us. So Emma, I would ask you that now, like, what was it? Was it, it's just too excruciating to have a pricing conversation? Was it, it would just be so stinging if they said, no, they don't want the work? What was it? And that's the thing we want to work with, is those discomforts and fears. And then you can journal about what's everything that's scary about charging in this new work, and what are some of the fear tools. You can use the ones in the Playing Big book or others that you like for fear. What are the tools you can use to deal with that underlying fear? It's actually has nothing to do with this client or any other client or what number you put on it. It all has to do with what feels scary or uncomfortable. Okay, and Emma's saying it's the fear. All the fears dressed up as rationalism. I'm scared to get rejected. Great. So now we know. Now you've even written it down in type, which always helps. And then we could use some tools like, okay, let's say you get rejected. What's the worst case scenario of that rejection? What would you do next? In the Playing Big book, that's called Following Fear to the End Game. So you can check out that one. And then I would say for anyone entrepreneur, do we have entrepreneurs who are starting out on the call? There usually is a lot of rejection in the beginning. And the key is to not interpret that as I don't measure up, but rather to interpret it for what it really is, which is I'm finding out what the match is between what I'm offering and what the market needs. Now, I just want you to imagine or know that, let's say in Silicon Valley, if you are, doing a tech startup and you go raise money from professional investors. So this is like, people who are considered the top entrepreneurs and the most rigorous investors. Those venture investors are going to say, yeah, we're going to give you like a year or 18 months of funding, millions of dollars of funding to figure out who your customer is and what people want to buy. That says to me that even at this level that's considered the most rigorous and where millions of dollars are being invested in it, there is an understanding that when we start a new entrepreneurial venture, there is a multi-month process of finding what in the Valley, here in Silicon Valley, is called product market fit. I feel like a lot of us more creative and small business entrepreneurs don't ever talk enough about or hear enough about product market fit and understanding it's a process to find that. So Emma, if there's some like, no, we don't want that, or then your job is to be like an investigator to figure out what is it that's not working there? Is it what I'm offering it? What I'm offering? Is it the packaging of it? Maybe it's the language I'm using to describe it. It's all small tweaks, but it's not at all about how you measure up or whether you're going to ultimately succeed in this or not. Thank you, Emma. Okay, Aditi says, hi Aditi, let us know if you're still on. I recently moved continents to support my husband with his career transition. To do so, that meant me resigning from a senior leadership role, which to others, this role seemed like I had made it, so to speak. But to me, it increasingly felt I was feeling small and not living up to my potential. A lot of us, I think, can relate to that. That's, I think, a big, there's always a stream in our community of women who have a job and a title that looks really big from the outside, but they know it's not really their true playing big. So she says, now we've made the move and I feel myself struggling to take the next step and put my work out there. I was an HR director and I'm contemplating both exploring new job opportunities as well as setting up as an independent HR consultant and coach. Any advice on how to overcome paralyzing procrastination would be very welcome. Yeah, so, I think procrastination is a word that's a little bit like laziness, where it's a kind of a dangerous word because it's very non-specific. It doesn't speak to what's really going on. Procrastinating, why don't we just for now, to me, procrastinating and even what people often label laziness in themselves, it's the same thing. The thing we're talking about is action is not happening, right? Forward movement is not happening. And so then the question is why? And I believe, and I hope that we could all just plant a little seed of this in our hearts today, that we've been gifted with an incredible stream of natural motivation and natural desire to take action. And if we're finding that we're not doing that, it's simply because something got in the way. It's like there's a river current, that's our energy, our motivation, our creativity. But sometimes a rock or a bunch of rocks might block the flow of the water. Now, is there something wrong with the river? Is it a bad river if that happened? No, not at all. It's still a beautiful river. We just need to figure out what is that rock and how do we move it. So I'm guessing, Aditi, that there's some important stuff that's causing that inaction. And I'm wondering, Aditi, if you know anything about what that is. It could be, I don't want to accidentally suck myself back into the kind of role I didn't like before. And I'm feeling like if I start taking action, I might, because I haven't fully given myself permission to not go for that role. Or it might be, I kind of want to pursue this entrepreneurial path, but I'm also terrified of it and I don't even really know what to do next. It might be, I'm freaking exhausted and I need a break. So I'm actually trying to rest, but I'm not letting myself, so now I feel like I'm procrastinating. Or it might be something else. But whatever it is valid and needs some care and love and attention so that you can move through to the other side of it. All right. So for people who are just coming on, hey, everybody, we're doing questions and answers / provocative questions and response / my thoughts. And it's super great to be here with you all. Okay. And someone's saying, I wish everyone in this live chat could connect somehow after this. I want to meet everyone. Yes. Well, okay, stay tuned because one great thing we are doing is we've been hosting co-working sessions in our community, and we do them on Zoom. And so If you are not on my email list, you'll want to get on my email list because that's how you got the info about the co-working sessions. And there's much more like connection and interaction, and then we're on Zoom so people can chat each other individually and all of that. Oh, good. And she's saying she's been going. Okay. And Aditi is saying, this is Aditi who just had her procrastination question. She said, that's so it. I feel like it's going to be so easy to get sucked back into corporate life and fear of taking the risk of putting myself out there as an entrepreneur, plus recovering from 20 years of that work. Yeah, so exactly. So you're just having regular emotions. That path feels really dissonant, corporate stuff. Entrepreneur feels scary. And so we need to create a lot more room and space for you to move through those. And I would say just starting with writing all the things you do and don't want in this next chapter of your work. And are you ready to give yourself permission to put down that corporate path, or what inner work might need to happen to support that? Then what are all the fears around entrepreneurship, and then using some of the fear tools from the Playing Big. The fear chapter has a lot, or there's lots of other fear tools out there. You may have some that you like already. And as you take care of those emotions, we're just removing the rocks from that river, and then you'll find your flow of what action feels right to take next. All right. Catherine says, I'm finding it overwhelming that many of the, is Catherine here? Let's see if she's here today too, because I had some questions about this. Catherine says, I'm finding it overwhelming that many of the boundaries I impose of the agency I have a contract with, and this agency is responsible for 90% of my work, she says, they do not respect the boundaries I set. I'm constantly needing to repeat myself to remind them of the days I work and the days that I don't work, and nothing seems to work. It looks recently like there's pressure even in this firm to go back to face-to-face meetings, despite the governor in my state not allowing this. Some of my colleagues are doing face-to-face, and so the pressure is on me to go despite saying no. I'm exhausted and depleted, and I don't know how to play big in this arena with this agency anymore. Okay, I thought this was such a great scenario for us to discuss, because it's really about what happens when we set boundaries and then we feel like we're not heard or respected. And my understanding, the way I think about boundaries, is that we set boundaries because we need to have them to protect and keep ourselves healthy and nurtured and thriving and well. We have our own code of what we do and don't want coming into our space or our energy or our daily routines, right? But setting the boundary in no way means that other people will adhere to the boundary. The boundary is just something we have to clarify and identify for ourselves. Then sometimes, because we're in relationship with others, we want to communicate the boundary so that it's clear, right? Because sometimes people just don't know. They didn't know that you really, no calls after 10 p.m. They didn't know you really don't work on Wednesday or whatever it is. So we might want to communicate it. But then they're going to do their thing because they're human beings. And one of the things that was in this question that is kind of for me, a signal, something we want to look at is they don't respect the boundaries I have. And sometimes I hear from women also, someone at work is doing such and such, and shows they don't respect me, or my boss just doesn't respect me. Now, I kind of wish we could take that phrase out of our vocabulary, because when we are telling a story about respect, whenever we're using that phrase, we're creating an interpretation of the situation. So for example, let's say I ask a family member, an extended family member, to not text me over and over again if they've already texted once and I can't get back to them. And they keep doing it and they keep doing it. And I say, see, that's proof that they don't respect me. That's my interpretation of the only fact we have is that they keep texting. And I could give you 10 other interpretations. They're really lonely. They're too lonely to even hear what I'm saying. They completely forget about this boundary that I've set anytime, right? They never learned anything about boundaries and can't even really absorb what I'm saying. So I could interpret that in all different ways. And I think the respect one is usually a lie and always unhelpful. Because when people are doing things that look to us like they don't respect us, they're really just in their own pain or patterns or unmet needs. So I would first let go of that story that this has anything to do with respect. They're just doing their thing in their work. Now you have your desires about when you do and don't want to work and what feels good to you. And I would, one, make sure they really heard you. Because a lot of times we're trained as good girls into, we say our boundaries in such a subtle, couched, or passive aggressive or indirect way that people actually totally missed it. So having a conversation where you can even say, I want to communicate this again, and if you could reflect back to me so I understand you really got it, and then I'd like to reflect back to you what I hear from your perspective. Meaning you might just say, I really can't work Wednesdays and Fridays. Can you reflect back what you heard? And then they might say, and then you could say, tell me your perspective. And they might say, sometimes projects really require work on Wednesdays and Fridays. And you say, oh, I hear from your perspective, sometimes work really, right? So have the communication to make sure everybody's heard each other. And then you get to decide if they aren't able to adapt to your boundaries / requests, then you get to choose what's my best next option here. Is it just adapting to this situation? Or is it going and finding another client or starting to find another client, right? But big picture, let go of the respect story. It just creates a lot of suffering. And know that setting a boundary doesn't mean other people follow it. It's just the beginning of your own clarity. And then if you can get it followed, communicated, great. If people don't respect it, great. That's our opportunity to be grown-ups and decide how we want to take care of ourselves in the face of that. Okay. I feel like I want to take a little pause in marathoning through these questions with a bunch more. Maybe just share, let's share in the chat what's one of your big takeaways so far from today? What stuck out for you, or what do you feel like you could apply in your life? Great, and I'm glad our boundary question asker the bravest. I think that was the bravest path, found it useful. Oh, thanks for all the love in the chat too, you guys. That's so lovely. Yeah, that the fear can really mislead us in a very convincing way. The reminder about hiding strategies. The word respect. Looking at the testing phase with entrepreneurship. Figuring out what's blocking the river. Not hiding behind degrees. Image of the river and the block. Oh, good. Yeah, oh, good. Lots of people in the rock. Okay. That's good to know. I don't think I've written about that before. Rethinking that lack of respect interpretation. Revisiting when to start charging for my services. Love it. No, the rocks in the river is not in the book. I don't think I've actually written about that at all. I'm going to have to do something with that. The product market fit. Yes, and Elaine is saying the product market fit. She'd love to know more about how to design that process and manage expectations around it. Yeah, so there's a few things. There's a book called The Lean Startup that my husband wrote, actually, which is more geared for tech companies, but it is a lot about that process, and it's pretty. It's written in a way that would be very accessible, even if you aren't in tech. There's another book called Traction that's also kind of tech-oriented, but we'll talk about this process. And then the leaping chapter in my book is another way you could think about that iterative, experimental process. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Let's go to, and here's our question from The Bravest Path. I really appreciate your thoughts on creativity. She says, I'm stuck in a cycle of perfectionism and scarcity where I worry about putting my work out there where others will steal it. It's already happened a lot. And one question I had for you, Bravest Path, is can you share in the chat what kind of work you're talking about there and what specifically has gotten stolen? Was it like a piece of writing that was plagiarized? Was it an idea? I'm a small business owner, and intuitively I believe I need to do this, put my work out there, but also manage my boundaries. And then a different question. So I think, and I'm waiting to hear her specific example too, but let me share how I have thought about work being, I don't even know actually if I would use the word stolen, because I feel like, I don't like to frame things in a way that creates more suffering for me. And I feel like that framing might. Okay, and she's saying it's content from the training courses I've designed and ideas that I've posted in blogs. Yeah, so my take is if you're doing some kind of content creation or small business that has content or ideas as part of its IP, that sometimes ideas will get adopted by others. And I think sometimes people do this unknowingly. Sometimes, unfortunately, people really they haven't yet figured out how to access their own authentic ideas and voice. And so they're just, collecting. And, there are times when I've seen really like a whole, oh, that's just my blog post on somebody else's workshop description, literally. Or there was a time when someone took my whole website and I can't remember, it was years ago, but they took all the design literally and all the code copied, and then they sort of just plunked new things into it. So there have been things like that. And I could really let those bother me, but I don't see how that really takes anything away from me that those things happened. Because my goal is my creative expression and also my thriving community, and then there's the livelihood, right? And the business side that comes from that. And nobody can steal the things that make that happen. That happens, as you all know, that happens over hundreds of blog posts. That happens over so many ideas and so much trust and relationship that's built and continually to show up. So who can steal that from me, right? And I couldn't steal that from someone else if I tried. So if I see someone else taking some of my ideas or even some of my text, that doesn't actually get in the way of me achieving anything that's important to me. And I have too much I want to do to spend time thinking about it. So I usually don't even follow up with those people. Occasionally I have. I think when we had that website I had, because it was our web designer's custom code, and it was also, she felt it was taking work that should have been paid for and stealing, that. But for the most part, I don't follow up because I don't see how that really is the best way I could use my time. And I also see sometimes our scarcity mindset makes us look right at our closest, the people we know of who are doing the most similar work. Like, let's say, I'm a parenting coach in the conscious parenting space, and I'm really aware of these 4 or 5 other conscious parenting coaches, and I'm always looking to see how much are they doing the same thing, and are we differentiated? And meanwhile, 99.9% of the world still doesn't know about conscious parenting coaching at all. So go find more of those people and talk to them. Don't worry about what's happening in the teeny little pond right there. That's what I would say. I think it's better kind of, energetically too, to not let those things, to just be generous. Okay, that happened. They haven't figured out how to reliably access their own voice yet. Moving on. Yeah. Okay. What time is it? Can anyone tell me the time? Because I don't know how to see the time while I'm on Instagram Live. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to take Trisha's question and then Whitney's and Caroline's that they submitted, and then we'll see. I think we'll be coming back and doing this again soon, so we'll have room for more questions then. Thanks, Karina. 10:36. Thanks, Whitney. Okay, so Trisha's question was, can you say more about goals or purpose for stepping out and extending ourselves? How do we crystallize what this is for us? Yeah, and Brenda, if you, Bren from my team, if you know that blog post where I talk about everyone having the same purpose, maybe we can post the link for that in the chat. I don't remember what it was called, so if it's too hard to find. So here's what I think. I think we all have the same purpose. Isn't that a relief? So you can leave here today knowing your purpose. I think the purpose for all of us to be here is to bring light and love into the world in some particular way. And from a spiritual perspective, I really like the idea that the world is a very flawed place and a broken place. That's kind of what it is here. And, a lot of our spiritual traditions, whether that's been expressed as sort of we're here after the fall, that's the way it's expressed in some Christian lines of thought. In the Jewish tradition, there's the idea of the wholeness and spiritual light has been shattered into a million shards, and our job is to do repair of the world. So I think that those and other wisdom traditions intuited this sense of this is a place of deficit, of lack, right? Buddhist suffering is inevitable. And I find I can live with a lot more acceptance and peace in the world if I understand as a baseline that's what it means to be here. It's like it sets my expectation really differently, because we can come from, there's a way things should be, just and full of light. And so every time I see evidence that it's not that, I'm hurt again. Versus, I am here, I am incarnated to experience an existence that has all the limitations and loss that comes with being in an incarnate body that gets sick and dies, and where other people get sick and die, that comes with lack of resources to some extent, at least where our society has evolved to at this point. And then my job is to find my opportunities to bring light and love and repair that brokenness. So to me, that's our baseline purpose. And I will tell you that if you do nothing else but change your frame of mind from, am I having a good day? What do I want to do today? If you change those questions to, how can I bring love and light into the world today? You will go on a huge adventure that day. And by day 3, if you're actually meeting the challenges to go on that huge adventure, you will not believe the stuff life starts putting in your path as your own curriculum for bringing more love and light forward. So that can be daily. You don't have to make any further discernments or decisions to know that. But then I think sometimes we get our callings, which is like, what's my particular way to bring light or love into the world right now? And those are not permanent, so you don't have to find your answer for your lifetime. And the callings chapter in the book has a lot on how you can sort of start to sense what's calling you now more. And so then you might say, oh yeah, for me, that has something to do with my art right now, or with caring for that isolated person in my neighborhood, or with creating a healing within my family, or scaling $1 billion company, right? But what's the form of love and light that you feel called to create right now? And if you're not sure, just go back to, okay, let me see what opportunities to bring love and light come into my daily, come into my, confront me today. And they will confront you if you ask. I think that's one of the most beautiful spiritual realities of being here. Okay. Whitney says, this is an amazing time for doing this conversation. Picked up your book again and listened to your Being Boss podcast yesterday. I love the Being Boss ladies. Listen to that Being Boss podcast if you haven't before, especially if you're a female entrepreneur. They're awesome. So she says, I've been birthing a soul project the last 2 years, and I've poured so much energy into these past 2 months in quarantine. I asked someone to be on the advisory committee, and I also padded that, saying this was momentous for me. And she was only the second person ever to see the website. Our phone call proceeded for her to have one line of course it's beautiful, and now I'm going to be honest in my feedback, and then it was followed by 30 minutes of critique. I felt so deflated, and I haven't wanted to work on it with the same fervor since then. Help. Yeah. So who can relate to an experience like this? I know I certainly can. So the first thing I want to say, Whitney, is that when I hear you say, I've been birthing a soul project for the last 2 years and I poured so much energy into it, and then that this was only the second person to see your website, that I'm going to guess that what you really wanted at that time was someone to say, or maybe many people to say, look at your creative baby. Wow, you made this. You did it. It's beautiful. We honor what you created here. We honor the uniqueness of it. We honor the spark of you that wanted to make this. When I was growing up, I had the same dance teacher from the time I was 5 until I was in my early 20s. Whenever I lived back home, I would continue to take dance from her. She's a huge artistic genius, one of those anonymous, living her quiet life, artistic and personal geniuses. And that's how she would be with children in the dance class. Just like, wow, look at what you just did. Not effusive praise, not the big sing-songy thing, but just in witnessing you, I see the glorious creation that you are and that you just made with your body. So to me, if you've had a soul project like that, Whitney, and you've been working on this website and nobody has seen it yet, and then you're ready for that next, I just want to share it a little bit in the world, you want to go where that's going to be the reaction. And part of our job, I think, as grown-up conscious human beings is to be able to check in with ourselves and say, what do I need right now? What do I want? And give ourselves permission to do that. Now, for us as women, right, it's pretty hard to be like, I want to be cheered on right now. I just want to be witnessed. And so when we feel that, sometimes we think the only way to get it is to go I'm going to ask for advice, or I'm going to go show this to my advisor. I'm going to go show this to my mentor. But we didn't really want advice. We wanted that witnessing and validation. So that's the first thing, is to notice, where could you get that? And you probably still would benefit from having it around this project. And do you have some friends or supportive people in your life who you can just say, I just want to jump on Zoom and screen share my website with you and celebrate that we did this and toast with our green tea. And I'd like to share maybe a little bit about what making this meant to me as a journey. It's that kind of interaction. So that's number one, requesting that validation and witnessing. number two is, how many people have had a painful experience of going to like an advisor or a mentor for feedback, right? And then not hearing what you wanted to hear. I know I have. I think there's very little need to ask advisors or mentors for feedback and advice, because here's the thing. If you want support, like we were just talking about, you're going to go to the friends who can best give it. If you want to know if the thing is working, if it's good, if you need to tweak it, good just means, is it accomplishing the goal you want to have it accomplish? And so the only people to ask for feedback is your intended audience, which is usually not the advisor, right? So even though her advice was good about what the market wants, says Whitney's saying right now, her advice was good about the market, what the market wants, I would be super, super, super skeptical of that. Because the more innovative your project is, the more it's reaching a new market, the more it's speaking to their needs in a new way, the more successful it's going to be. I mean, I cannot tell you, everyone who's writing books with a publisher has to have conversations with the publisher where the publisher is saying, well, here's what we know about the market, what the market wants. And if you follow that advice too much, your book is going to flop, because they're working with kind of old data, what's worked in the past. They're working with really high level distant data, but like, you know, your audience and you have your vision. So why go to an advisor to find out what the market wants? You have the market. Go to the market. Put something on sale. Publish the website. Have 10 people who are in your target demographic look at it, and then don't ask them for their opinions about it. Instead, see if they take the action you desire. And if not, tweak it a little bit, and then see if they take the action you desire. Yeah? Okay, Whitney says love it. Woohoo! Okay, good. Love it. Okay. Carolina says, thank you for your wonderful book. I've given it as a gift to my closest friends. Oh, thank you. We love that. This book has mostly had its life because women give it to each other. And that just always really touches me. I was thrilled she's also GSB grad. We went to the same business school. Okay, what does playing big look like in this new age of sheltering in place? I just found out that I'll likely be working from home for the rest of the year, and I'm wondering how I can use this as a unique opportunity, or at least try and keep some career momentum and growth going from before. Yeah. So I think there really are a lot of opportunities for true playing big right now. The first thing I would say for playing big right now is to identify your core values and explore how you can live them day to day. Okay. That was a phone call. Guess I should have turned something off that I didn't. Hopefully that will go away. Okay. So core values, I just did a video about core values that takes you through a whole exercise. That's sort of my tweaked approach to how you identify your core values. And Brenda can post the link to that, Brenda, when you have a chance. But core values, it's transformative. If you haven't been through a process or been through one recently of looking at what really fulfills you and gives you joy, and gives you a sense of meaning and purpose, because even in shelter in place, we can find small ways to live our core values. It can be in how you homeschool your kids. It can be in how you let go of some of the homeschooling with your kids. It can be in how you deal with your colleagues during this stressful time, or where you give your philanthropic dollars to. So that's really important. And I think living by our values is playing big during this time. Also, I believe this is a time where we should all be asking regularly, how can I be of service, and how do I want to be of service? And that's where our playing big can also come through. And then in every workplace right now, right, there's new constraints, there's a new economic reality, there's a new market reality, there's probably people in your workplace who are in need and suffering, there are old processes that don't work. So the opportunities to notice your callings, to notice how am I feeling inspired to make change and bring in love and light here right now, or just everywhere, because there's so many new problems and so much is changing. So I think that's another opportunity to play big. Like, are you going to be the person that helps rethink more supportive policies for parents at your company? Are you going to be the person who figures out a cool structure to keep everyone feeling socially connected so there's still warmth in this company culture? Are you going to be the person to throw out an idea about how we need to pivot with our clients, right? I think those are all ways that we can play big, and there's a lot of them right now. All right, I think we are going to wrap up. We were thinking that if this was super fun, we would do it again very soon. And I think it was super fun. So we're going to do that. I'm going to suggest, Brenda, is it possible to do this next week at the same time on the same day, Tuesday at 10? Brenda's going to tell me in a minute, and then I'll let you guys know. The other thing in the meantime, co-working sessions, they're really, really fun. We actually work together. So there's some teaching and inspiration and grounding from me, but then we have quiet and put our heads down and people work on what's ever important to them. But we're on Zoom where we can all see each other. So you can see lots of people's faces, but you're on mute. And when you get a little uninspired, you can look up and see some gorgeous connected faces and feel a part of something. And I can't tell you how many people have said about those co-working sessions, like, I hadn't published a blog post in 6 months and I just wrote one. Or I just sent that email I've been putting off for a year. Or, oh my God, I tackled my taxes, which has been a huge thing for me. There's something about that shared space that really gets things moving for people. So that is tomorrow. But you'll want to go to my website and get on our email list to get the link and the password, because those are on Zoom. Oh, best IG live ever. Yay. Thanks, Aditima. And then Brenda said, yeah, we can come back here next week. So you can put it on your calendar now if you want. Next week, 10 a.m., Instagram Live. Tell your friends, please. I'm so glad that people enjoyed it. Thank you for all the awesome questions. And all the love in the chat. Thank you so much for all the love in the chat. And I'll talk to y'all soon. Thank you, Jill and Heather. Thank you, Una. Thank you, Joy and Dance, and Alex Cole, and Dana, and Bravest Path, and Studio Karliova, and Katrin. Yes, sometimes we do co-working times that work for Europe. We just tend to vary the times because we've got our Australia friends and our New Zealand friends and our Europe friends, so we bop it around in different weeks. But if you sign up for email, you'll get the links and the dates and stuff as we plan them. Oh, thank you, Whitney. Thanks, Suze. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Trish. Thank you, Tina. Thanks, Wellbeing Journaling. And see Michelle McKenzie. Thank you, Marta. Thanks, Lindsay. Thanks, Natasha. Thanks. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Kai. Love to Germany. Oh, thanks, Cece. Thanks, Aditima and Andre. Thanks, Tia. Thanks, Impact Media. Thanks, Caitlin. Mwah. Lots of love, everybody. Thanks, Katrian. Thanks, Whitney. She says, good job coming on your first live. I know. Had to get through that little rock in my own river. Oh, thanks, Marta. Thanks, Alta. Thanks, Trina. Mwah. All right, bye, everybody.